Yes, I wasn't born for the war, but I wasn't born to live in this shame. I wouldn't be able to live in this shame. They got scared that Ukraine could win over Russia on the battlefield, and then it would be the question of what to do with its nuclear bomb.
Точніше, з її ядерними кнопками.
Hello, I'm Jenny and you're watching my podcast. Today, in North London, I'm meeting Taras Topolia, frontman of Antytila band. Taras, how was your flight?
Привіт всім. Спокійно. Долетіли, слава Богу.
As usual, all good. We made it without any major adventures.
How's the peaceful London after the war Kyiv?
Немає сирен. Це відчувається. Немає.
There are no air raid signals and there are no explosions, which we heard in Kyiv 6 weeks ago during the traditional missile attack when the Russians tried and succeeded in destroying our energy infrastructure, including in Kyiv. There's no such thing here. People live in peace, and the war is present only in the media. Of course, nobody speaks about it in the streets because it is a different country. People have their own problems. We haven't met the Ukrainian community because we've just landed, and I suspect the mood will be different. More like in Kyiv because war hurts. So yes, there is a contrast. I can see it. The airport is working here, and it doesn't work in Kyiv.
Do you switch off this air radio signals app when you're abroad?
No.
Was it signaling in the public places?
When I am away and my family stays in Kyiv, I need to know whether they are safe in the moment of air raid signals. I text or call my wife to make sure that they are hiding between the walls, away from the windows, and that they are doing okay.
What kind of city is London for you? Is it Ukrainian, British, or
London
something
is British.
else?
It has an unbelievable atmosphere. It's very eclectic. It's very historical, but has a very modern image. I love London.
What is war for you? If I ask you to describe it with the strongest possible words.
Війна насправді.
War is terrible. Indeed, it is awful. It is death, disrupted people's lives. It is disabilities and injuries. It is losses among the victories. It is pain, despair, tears. War is terrible. There is nothing positive for me among everything that is happening in Ukraine. On the other hand, war is a process of cleansing and initiation, new revelations, rethinking and pain. But it is probably a challenge that our country should go through. Rock band Antytila felt it in their skins. We joined the armed forces from the first day, saw it with our own eyes, did our job on the front line, and know something about war. Not from the news, but from how it is in real life.
Я пам'ятаю цей момент, коли прийшла новина про те, що ви, ваш гурт, приєдналися до Збройних сил захищати.
I remember when the news appeared that you and your band joined the armed forces to defend Ukraine. I was stunned. Other famous singers and musicians joined the army like you. Thanks to you all and other famous people doing it, it gave me hope that Ukraine will stand and there will be country to return to. It feels very different when you live abroad. When you decide for yourself, have you been surprised? Or was it just a logical step in the chain of decisions in your life?
Це просто був один із кроків в якомусь ланцюжку подій вашого життя.
По-перше, ми готувалися до того.
First of all, we were getting ready. If there was going to be a full-scale invasion and war, we joined the territorial defence before the invasion. Also, we were part of the Ministry of Defence's promo campaign. We invited people to join the territorial defence forces to defend our city if the enemy tried to take it. And the enemy did. When it happened, my friend Sergei Yusov and I sent our beloved to the west of Ukraine into safety, and we joined the army. This full-scale invasion hasn't become a surprise to us, but we couldn't believe that the enemy would do it. I thought, it's impossible. It is the 21st century. How come? It happened, and we were ready, and we joined. We were the paramedics. We started in the Kyiv region, and then we were sent to Kharkiv region, where we helped many. We evacuated people from the combat zone, provided first aid, and saved somebody's life. These lives have names and surnames. We were the paramedics and the evacuation team. We were useful. As you say, we realise that public figures, those who have the social capital of a public person, others are looking up to you. That's why the actions and decisions we made during the first months of the war were crucial. They were reassuring people and gave them hope. Of course, it wasn't just our deeds, but it was part of it. It gave the hope that Ukraine was fighting and Ukraine would win. Our mission and communication work targeted audiences inside and outside of the country. What we did and how we communicated during that period were meaningful and useful.
It's true. I remember the screens in the newsroom, where on one hand you were dressed in pixel uniform and commenting on the situation for Western media. There were different TV channels. Thank goodness you spoke English, the audience could hear it from you. Also, there was collaboration with Ed Sheeran. You were singing and fighting simultaneously. I thought you had several communication channels and pressed all the buttons together. It was unbelievable because I moved to the UK where nobody differentiated Ukraine from Russia. They called me Russian. And now, thanks to your work, Ukraine has appeared on the world map for many people. It is not going to change now.
It has been subjectivized.
Absolutely, it is the result of the Soviet maps. Because on the world map, it was the big red stain called Russia. Now, after the Russian invasion, your interviews, collaborations, public appearances established the Ukrainian identity for many people. Has this experience changed you?
Очевидно, що всіх
The band Antytila has changed. Not only because of this experience, but also because of the 2 years of war. Most of the Ukrainians have changed inside and outside. I don't think I changed a lot. My principles hadn't changed, and my understanding of life hadn't changed. I'm sure Ukraine will win this war. This hasn't changed. But our status has changed. We are not only musicians and volunteers anymore. We became soldiers, and it added more responsibility to everyone. Possibly our health has changed. The war took about 7 to 10 years of our lives after all those emotions, stresses and worries we had. We have got more grey hair, but thank goodness we paid the small price. Unfortunately, many of our brothers returned with injuries. A lot of them have returned, and they died. More than 40 children of our battalion whose parents became heroes on the shield. We have nothing to complain about if you compare how their lives have changed. It has changed us somehow, possibly for the worse. But it's the war I mentioned earlier in our interview. The war is terrible, evil. It brings only pain, and even those victories that Ukraine has gained, and the fact that we still stand and keep fighting cannot overlap the changes that have happened to the millions of Ukrainian families. Many have lost fathers, sons, beloved husbands, brothers, sisters and mothers. The war took children. These changes are awful. We are lucky to have our families alive. We got back alive from the front lines. I think the Lord holds his hands over us, so we must do something.
Did you have the moments at the front line when you were surprised that you survived? Or did you feel the moment when death was very close to you?
Що ви вижили? Або відчули оцей момент, коли смерть дихає в спину?
бувало.
Several times we could have died. It was accidentally. I mean, I believe in fate. I believe there's nothing accidental in life. Everything is how it should be in life. So I must do something worthwhile in life. There is a mission and we must accomplish it. The missile landed very close. We would not have survived it if it had been a meter closer. It could have destroyed the place where we were hiding. There were several of them, one of which destroyed the court and a piece of shell cut off the leg of a friend. We saved our friend. We had to change our location. It's just one of many things that has happened to us.
How did you feel? I understand that you must have been shocked at the moment, but what did you realize afterwards? At the war, you were trying not to take it close, to carry on with your work. But after, when you were reflecting on what you've been through?
Every person is different.
How about you?
I did not reflect on it or go deep in my thoughts. Why did I survive? How had it happened? If you think of it, your fear will paralyze you and you won't be able to do anything. Take it as it is. Today survived and tomorrow can die. There were situations when the attacks were unbelievable. The garage was destroyed, the car lift was torn apart. Its bits were on the roof of the neighbouring building, leaving a hole in the ground at human height. It was 15 metres from our location. If I overthink, then I would become too scared even going there. All I was thinking about was how to provide medical assistance if we did everything right. After this analysis, we realised we made some mistakes because we were stressed, but we tried to control ourselves. When you are a paramedic, you are too stressed and can't help anybody. You must be calm and confident and show that everything is under control and will be okay, and the brother will survive. We recorded our work on a GoPro camera later, watched it and analysed if we did everything right. I never analysed why I had survived because it made no sense. I did not want to overthink. Even if I had died, it would have happened quickly. Probably I wouldn't have realised it at the moment. Usually, it's a second or less when a missile lands. I decided to be careful, but not to overthink it. If it happened, it has already happened. It is war.
Ви кажете, що
Your quote, "The war is marathon and we all will be fighting." Tell me, what did you mean? Men and women will be fighting? Or the men who think they will pass? What did you mean by saying those words?
що ви вкладаєте в ці слова?
Я давно ще
I did say 18 months ago that we will all be fighting. While I am doing this interview, the law about conscription has been changed in Ukraine. It is a simple thing, and I don't want to interpret it. All adults should understand that war means there are people on the front lines. War is not only about drone operators, it is also infantry that take the positions, people who work with air defence systems, paratroopers and many, many other units. Some men and women stand still, survive and win. These people should be where they are needed for, on the front lines. Some people have already joined the front line and have finished their work there. Otherwise, we must all agree to stop fighting if nobody wants to join the army and run this marathon. But we have to be ready for the Russians to come here, to Kyiv and other cities, and mobilise. They hang their three-coloured rag. Russia won't be asking permission and will mobilise people. These are the tough times, and you can't hide from the war if you're in Ukraine. Of course, you can hide abroad, in London. Then it is up to you and your values. If you're in Ukraine, you should be part of the war effort. It would help if you are defending your country for your children's future.
How about our children? Are they going to fight with Russians?
We must do everything to prevent it. It is impossible to predict. I feel like they might be forced to do it. You see, our parents haven't done their homework. I mean, the generation of our parents. So now we have to correct those historical mistakes. I hope we won't make the same mistakes, and then we won't need to correct them.
Війна, вона забирає?
Does war give career opportunities or take them away? You are a young man. You are at the peak of your creativity and energy. You should be collecting Grammys, selling out stadiums, and popularizing Ukrainian culture in the world. However, you collaborated with Ed Sheeran. So, in this context, is war giving or taken away?
В контексті дає чи забирає?
If we put on the scale what the war has given to the band Antytila, or took away, it would be better if it had never started. We don't need any of it, everything that the war gave us, comparing how much it has taken away from our people and our country. Of course, we had sold out at the stadiums and planned a tour. We might return to those ideas. We are going to have a tour after the victory. All our activities during the war were to spread the truth about the war and our Ukrainian resistance. We did it the best, the way we could have imagined, and I think we achieved a good result. But again, if we could give it back and avoid the war, we would happily agree to it.
Could you tell more about your collaboration with Ed Sheeran?
It is a known story in the UK and Ukraine. We contacted him offering to do the live bridge between Kyiv and Birmingham, where Ed Sheeran participated in the charity event to support Ukrainian refugees. We recorded our video wearing military uniforms because we were serving then. The organisers declined our offer because we had weapons in our hands, and they had a purely humanitarian approach. We accepted the refusal, however, it went viral globally. Many liked the idea, especially when Kyiv was still standing. The city was invincible. We planned to perform 1 or 2 songs from the Maidan, Kyiv Central Square, to connect the two cities for a good cause. It hasn't happened as they said no, and people got upset with this decision. After that, Ed Sheeran and his team contacted us to do the feat of the song Two Step together. At that time, our battalion was sent to the Kharkiv region. We were the first territorial defence unit sent to the other region, as we were founded in Kyiv and we were about to start defending the Kharkiv area. Why? Because we were the most capable. We were chosen to support Ukraine's regular army in that area. So just before leaving Kyiv for Kharkiv, I popped into the studio and recorded the Ukrainian version of this song. Our friend Dmytro Manifest made the video. We recorded a few shots with our lines on the front line. We stopped there for a few minutes to film it and drove off to do our assignment because it was so dangerous to stay longer. That's the story of our collaboration. Later, Ed Sheeran invited us to perform together in Warsaw at the stadium. It became a turning moment when the Commander-in-Chief moved us from the front line. We had to ask the permission of our commander. He asked at the very top about such active paramedics who were musicians and singers, and were invited to perform together with Ed Sheeran in Warsaw. As a result, we were told, guys, enough war for you, and carry on doing what you are doing, music. It was the 6th or 7th month of the war. We went to Warsaw straight from the trenches in Kharkiv region. I remember I was scared every time of the noises of the tram. The tram wheels have the same dull sounds of the mortars. There were helicopters in Warsaw, and adjusting to all those sounds was hard. But we managed it quickly. Ed Sheeran was an exciting and good story because we have shared values with the UK and Ireland. We offer freedom, human rights, and a free and independent progress because he is Irish. We offer freedom in our creativity, so is he. And he is the number one who has it in his songs. He supported Ukraine in this difficult time the best way he could. We are still in touch, and it feels good that the best people in the world are in Ukraine, right?
The truth is on Ukraine's side. Recently, I interviewed an ex-MI6 officer, and he said it is a unique conflict in modern history because it is a clear cut where Ukraine is right and Russia is wrong. That's why so many people support Ukraine, particularly in the UK. We can see through the number of Ukrainian flags all over the country. Interestingly enough, I can see the flags on people's balconies. Used to be new, bright colors in London, and now they are getting worn out. It's amazing. War knows no boundaries, not even in the comfort of South London. The war is everywhere. The parents of young men, their hearts heavy with worry, often say, "My son wasn't born for the war." But who, I ask, was born for such fate?
Ніхто не створений для війни.
Nobody was born for the war, but people have fought in wars throughout the whole history of war. They kill each other and destroy, fighting for territories and senses, fighting for the people's minds. Humans are cruel, bloodthirsty and cynical, who all their lives try and destroy each other. It's a paradox. At the same time, a mother gives birth to her son, not for the war. Let's say I have no idea of such parents or mothers who give their lives to their children, for those children to go and die on the front line. It's absurd, but the current circumstances is that we must defend our own. I mean Ukraine. Would I like my Marco, Roman or Maria to go to the war? Of course not. But there is a place, time and circumstances when they might go, and I will not object. Because apart from the question of life and death, there is also a question of life, senses and values. As I said before, if my band Antytila hadn't joined the army on the first day of the war, I couldn't have been looking in my children's eyes. I wouldn't be able to look in the mirror. I am a very open and sincere person. I could not justify it if I was hiding from danger and hadn't joined my fellow countrymen in defending our country, the country I love, where I created and I evolved. My country needed this help. Yes, I was not born for the war, but I was not born to live in this shame. I would not be able to live in it. That is how my mother and father raised me. So, whether this question was born for the war or not, is on the face of it, in everyone's heart. They must ask themselves if they feel like a citizen of this country. Is it precious enough for you to fight for or not? Then you decide to go and fight. If you can't find it within yourself, you can't do it. There are different types of people. We met these kinds of people in our unit, but not many of them. I mean those who enjoy the adrenaline of combat. We call them Rexes. Indeed, they live by war. They dream to die in combat and enter Valhalla. But most people I met decided after asking themselves, who if not me? Whether they wanted or not. Usually you don't want to do it, but you have to. There's no other option. It is not a place to ask if you were born for the war. These are the circumstances, and you must. It was the same with our band, and I was always asked about it. Then people got upset with me because I said I didn't want to return to the front line. Yes, I don't want to be on the front line. Nobody wants to be there, to be in that situation. But I will be back if I must. I wasn't born for the war. Nobody was born for the war. People are born to live, create and evolve, making beautiful copies of yourselves, your children, intelligent and happy to achieve something in life and unite for something great. I think that is why people are born. Humans always end up in war, defending themselves, their families and their futures. I am one of those people. When the war came to us, we went to defend our country while not being born for the war.
You know, it was my revelation. When I was at the positions of the front line, it was not the trenches, but about 10 kilometers from the Russian positions. I was visiting my family member. I met a group of people he was fighting with. I was shocked by what I saw there. Before, I saw the war through social media, television, and I thought superhumans and cybers were fighting for us. Then I went there and saw their living conditions, food, and what they were like in their civilian lives. And I was shocked, because they are ordinary people. We can see them in public transport and in the supermarket. The only difference, they decided to wear all these attributes of war and defend our country. On my way there, I didn't know what to expect. I have seen that. How about children? You have 3, 2 boys and beautiful girl. How do you talk to them about the war? How do you choose the words?
We don't talk to Marussia about the war. She is too small. Marco and Roman know who the aggressor is, the evil. Recently, Marco drew on a piece of paper 3 coloured flags and wrote, "Entry is strictly prohibited for the Muscovites." He hung it on the door. It's still there. Elena and I don't raise our children in hate, but we ensure they understand the situation. The grandparents help us greatly with it. Russians have brought a lot of grief to our land. I understand that eventually we will have a peace agreement, but generations will never forgive and never forget what they have done to us.
Do you think it became part of our national DNA or historical memory?
No, not yet, unfortunately.
What is the aim of your visit to the UK?
We are the main characters of the documentary Culture vs. War. It was done soon after we were moved from the front line. In this documentary, we honestly tell it how it was. We are in one of the episodes. There are 10 or 12 of them in total. There were artists who either joined the army or became volunteers for the war effort. So we will have the screening, Q&A with the audience, and then an auction and acoustic performance. We aim to raise funds to buy evacuation boats for the armed forces. These boats will evacuate civilians and non-civilians. It will be the work to accelerate our victory. So we are planning to raise funds for this, and are also invited to a big festival in Copenhagen. The money from the performance at the festival will be used for our foundation to buy FPV drones and many other valuable things. So we are going to get paid at this festival. Also, we will have a performance in Poland with the Polish rap singer and the brass orchestra. This will be called Culture Stadium and aims to unite Ukrainian and Polish cultures. We will have 15 minutes to perform. These are our plans, and we have the official permission of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine. Of course, we plan to do a lot of publicity.
What do you think of Ukraine's naval success and unlucky events for the Russian Black Sea Fleet?
I love it. I love seeing how it is all burning away. Well done, guys. Ukraine's defense intelligence works well. They destroy the enemy's fleet step by step. A couple of days ago, another boat sank. Our forces push it to Novorossiysk gradually. Also, they destroy their air defense system. It looks like the Crimean Bridge will be destroyed. Their successful work on the sea is vital. We count on it because we plan to have a concert in Yalta in 2024. We might need to postpone it for a bit later, but we're not going to cancel it. We are looking forward to it. We hope for more Russian warships to be sunk in the Black Sea.
About this concert in the Crimea, what is it? Light at the end of the tunnel?
Yep, it is the light at the end of the tunnel. We state that Crimea is Ukraine. We believe that Crimea will be under the Ukrainian flag, on the top of Ipetri or the Ordog mountain. And yes, we are planning to have a concert in Yalta. We might need to postpone the date.
You have mentioned the defense intelligence of Ukraine. I noticed some Ukrainian celebrities joined the armed forces within their defense intelligence, and now they use their talents and creativity to help Ukraine. You're yourself a celebrity, and intelligence is always attractive because of its mysterious and adventurous craft. For instance, James Bond. Have you ever considered joining intelligence for life experience?
Хотілося вам ще в розвідниках побувати для життєвого досвіду.
If I get the assignment, I will do it. On the other hand, why do you think I haven't joined defense intelligence already?
Ну правильно, ви головне.
Well, the main thing is not to tell anybody about it. You know, when the war started in Ukraine in 2014, British intelligence started hiring British Russian speakers, and the ads were published in the newspapers. It was very vague job description, but the main underlying message was that candidates shouldn't tell anybody about their job application, even their family members. So yes, you couldn't tell even if you were working already. British soldiers who are defending Ukraine at the moment told me privately and in their interviews that NATO wouldn't be able to conduct the war that Ukraine's army does and sometimes even have victories. So what do you think of its achievements and transformations?
Вдається зробити на
Якщо додати Україну,
If Ukraine gets aviation, it will become the strongest army in Europe or the world. No one has the combat experience like the Ukrainian Armed Forces, or experience in accomplishing successful strategic and tactical operations with such limited resources. We are creative, we are brave, we are smart. We have been at war for more than 10 years, since 2014. I am not a military expert, but I see the full potential of the NATO army in similar combat circumstances. I don't remember similar examples. Let's take, for instance, the armed forces of Spain or Italy. I don't think their soldiers could be so effective during assignments if they were in similar conditions. I mean, defensive or counter-offensive operations. We lack aviation now. I wish we could do it like the Americans when they burned down everything with aviation and then move forward. I am sure the effectiveness of our armed forces would increase enormously. Unfortunately, we don't have it. That is why our infantry do it with their hands and accomplish their assignments without the Air Force's support, the one thing that they should have had.
What do you think about the conditions of partners' military support? On one hand, they give it with delay, but on the other hand, they forbid to use it on the enemy's territory and its biggest military gathering.
I will be honest, our partners got scared after our successful counter-offensive in the Kharkiv region. after we pushed the Russian army from Kyiv, Chernihiv and Sumy regions. They just got scared that we can actually win this war on the battlefield, and they are not ready to answer the question of what to do with Russia and its nuclear button. They are not ready for the consequences. It's my opinion. Some of our partners need a controllable war on Ukraine's territory rather than an uncontrollable civil war in Russia. That's why they play with tap, close or open it. They manipulate and make sure that this war smoulders. It's our fault because we don't have the resources.
For now.
For 30 years, all we had was cut to pieces, destroyed and sold. Unfortunately, now we are depending on this tap. That's why, thank you very much. We can't upset our partners. We are grateful for everything, but we have no other choice.
When I came to Ukraine, I couldn't help but notice the scars of war, destroyed houses, especially in the Kyiv region, roads and bridges, and the architectural scars of war are getting sorted out quickly. Eventually, you don't notice it. How about those scars of war that stay in the souls of Ukrainian society? Do you think it will be with us forever? Has it become our historical memory and DNA? Will it be with us for generations?
It's a tough question for me. Is it the first time for us? Is it the first time when Russians are trying to destroy us? History proves that we tend to forget after 2 generations or so. There will be scars. Our attitude to the occupier and Muscovites will depend on how we raise our future generations. We must think about it now. Was it different in 2014? The occupiers came with Russian ammunition, Russian regular armed forces, and Ilovaisk. How many Ukrainians have been killed? The Crimea annexation. Nothing has changed. Many people had a positive attitude towards the Russians until the full-scale invasion happened. Even now, the people's attitudes depends on the number of missile attacks. There are lots of attacks with numerous victims, and then everyone is angry. If the number of attacks goes down, then people start forgetting. It is hard for me to answer if it will be the significant and severe narrative and the ditch that separates us. I would like that. The ditch is first. Only then can we start building the bridges, how we want to do it. But I suspect it will be a bit different, for better or worse.
You are in London at the moment, and there is a group of people who follow the news and Ukrainian war, but there is also a great number of people who do not follow. They are sure the war is already over. You might be meeting this kind of people. How are you going to tell them the war is still going on, Ukraine is bleeding, and we only dream about victory and hope for it?
Our coming meetings with the Ukrainian community, diplomats and civil servants are where we are, from our own example, talking about the war, how we live, and what we are doing, and what we will carry on doing. Sometimes we feel like parrots who repeat themselves, but the motivation and the meanings haven't changed. We understand that Ukraine is not the main story in the media, but the war is still ongoing, and Russians are attempting again to take Kharkiv. There is a very dangerous situation in Sumy region. It's nothing surprising that media coverage is changeable. It would be surprising if Ukraine stayed on the front pages constantly. We have to come again and talk about it as long as it needs, 20 or 30 times. We haven't won the war, and we have to say it repeatedly to say thank you and remind ourselves about the important things. There are a lot of stories to be told about the war. Gradually, step by step, it gives the result. I hope the Peace Summit in Switzerland will support Ukraine's peace initiative. If it happens, then Ukraine's media personalities have done their work right, and other countries and people will hear their voices in different parts of the world. They shouldn't stop. They should continue their work and not slow down.
What are you personally going to do? Not like a celebrity, rock star or media personality, but as a person, when it is announced that Ukraine won.
I dream of being at the victory parade in Kyiv. As a normal Ukrainian, I will have a toast with my wife and my friends out of joy. We will remember all of those who left on the shield before this victorious day and paid for it with their lives. We will think of them with gratitude. I am sure this is how it will be. Ukraine will win.
Thank you for watching. Today I talked to Taras Topolia, Ukrainian rock legend and frontman of band Antytila. Please don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Thank you.